There's so much user-generated content today, and that's really what's keeping people online, watching these videos for so long, because that's where the compelling entertainment is. But it's an amazing thing for us to have to manage as marketers out there, right? Back in the old days when we actually thought we owned the brand, we didn't own it then either. Now we know for sure we don't own it because it's out there in cyberspace. And all we can hope to do is frame a message that customers can understand, and both on the supply side and the demand side, get enough advocates for what's happening with your brand that they can actually respond and help you when you fall into trouble out there. Online video ads really work well. Look at the unaided recall, 71%. So extremely engaging, not surprising there. Online video, how does it stack up against traditional TV? On average, digital video is 2 times as effective as traditional TV across key metrics. So really, really good stuff. But I'm telling you, one of the big things you're going to have to do here is to educate your customers about what this new technology is all about. And we certainly found that out at Sears Holdings. It's not enough for you to go out and create these programs out in cyberspace. You've actually got to educate your customers about what the capability is, and you've actually got to educate the folks that are working on the brand internally and working on the capabilities internally to understand why it's so important that these things foot the way that they do. So who do we think has done a good job at online content? Everybody is familiar with Vice, right? I mean, because I think this is one of the first really, really good examples of how this online content can work. They showed multiple video executions of Naughty to Nice campaign throughout a show on Hulu.com, and it provided an original experience for the viewer who keeps looking for what's next, right? Because that's the other thing about the channel that we're talking about here. It's extremely dynamic, and you can't just go out and do one thing. You're going to have to try several things before you figure out what works, and once you actually figure out what works, that customers, they've seen it, they've done it, maybe they've sent it around virally, they've got other people engaged in it, but they're gonna wanna know what's next. What's coming next? So what's the implication of that? What's the implication of that? And this is one of the biggest mistakes that gets made today by companies that are trying to play in this space. They've relegated this to somebody who's already got 3 jobs, right? We haven't yet stepped up to realizing that the digital channel that we're working into here today needs dedicated resources, dedicated investment, and dedicated support. Big, big mistake that companies make out there today. How many of you go in and you don't actually get to talk to the chief marketing officer, you get to talk to a manager of everything that somebody else didn't want to do? Isn't that right? I mean, I've seen it, and we struggle with this at Sears Holdings Company as well. It's like, if you want to get beyond a tactic here, and you really want to develop a platform and a strategy, you're going to have to make an investment. And I'm not just talking about the investment online, I'm talking about the investment in the people and the capability to be able to bring this stuff forward. It is so dynamic and it is so critical that you keep things fresh. You've got to be able to make that jump, right? So how do you do that? That's a tough thing to do. How do you do that? I would suggest first and foremost, you've got to convince your senior leadership to get on board with this program, right? Now, when you go and you talk to a CEO or you go and talk to the chairman or anyone else, you know why they'll get excited about digital and social media? Because they've heard it's cheap. In fact, they've heard social is free, right? This is why they get excited about it, right? This is what excites these folks, man. They're all about making money for the shareholders and making sure that the investments get made in the right places and stuff. Their heart's in the right place. We just have to educate them a bit about how this stuff works. But you've got to get aligned with your CEO, you've got to get aligned with your chairman, because if you've got them advocating for what you're doing, and if you can flip the model on its head and get them to lead every discussion with digital and personalized digital relationships versus what TV ad is running this week, I guarantee you've got a better opportunity, a much better chance of getting the platform built and start running down this road to the future. So you've got to get aligned with your senior leadership, and you've got to convince them that they have to give you the money to invest in both the infrastructure and the human resources to be able to bring this stuff to bear. Are you with me? Good. So, show you a couple examples here about what SHC has done in this space. Now, think about the Sears brand. How many of you out there have tween kids? Anybody out there have tween kids? I've been married for 30 years. I didn't have any kids. My wife and I decided to collect art instead. We're glad we did. You know, you get upset with a piece of artwork, you just put it in the closet. You can't do that with kids. Tween kids today did not grow up with Sears, right? In the same way that our parents grew up with it, in the same way that many of us grew up with it, right? So where familiarity is rooted for Sears is very much in the past. So tween kids aren't going to look at that and say, gee, This is the place I want to go and buy my clothes for school, for back to school. This is the place I want to go because I think it's hip and trendy and on. We weren't able to find a way to sort of speak to them. The clothes were actually quite great. We weren't able to find a way to engage with them. Do you think TV is the right way to engage with the tween population? No. They're not really watching TV. Well, they're watching some. They're watching Disney, they're watching some Nickelodeon and so forth. Very expensive. You're going to try to activate a traditional media plan that way. Digital is the way to go. They love being online. They love experiences online, fraught with complexity trying to talk to tweens online today because of the way all the laws are and so forth. But we were able to do this for Sears last year. And what we did was a sweepstakes where you could become the 5th band member at arrivelounge.com, right? So we held 5th band member video auditions where teams could submit their videos or do in-store auditions. We received over 2 million unique visitors and over 250,000 votes and over 1,000 user video submissions, which is really pretty incredible. Rick, can you go ahead and click on that URL for me? Actually a video clip of Larissa, who was the sweepstakes winner. So she actually uploaded her video and she was chosen by a big base of voters that were out there on Sears.com. She won the Sears back to school shopping spree, and she also got some time with Selena Gomez, who was the face of Sears back to school that year. So really worked out incredibly well. So again, the power of digital against a very precise market really made a lot of sense. Okay, thanks, Rick. How many of you saw the Brett Favre stuff that Sears did around the Super Bowl this year? Yeah, some of you saw it. It was really good stuff, we thought. Again, we put the spots out on YouTube, and we really gathered positive comments in Facebook and Twitter and generated over 350,000 combined views on YouTube, right? Very difficult to do that if you were just working in the traditional media space. But for us to be able to extend that out, get those things sent around virally, really made a huge difference to that campaign overall, which made our numbers for Super Bowl, for Sears and home electronics, some of the key categories there were just off the charts, which was amazing, working with a talent like Brett Favre. Here's a project that we did for KmartDesign.com. I was so surprised when I started working for Kmart to find out that we actually have a design center in Soho, New York, that has 200 designers in it. Fashion designers, apparel designers, right? They've worked for Ann Taylor, they've worked for The Gap, they've worked for Zara, they've worked for all kinds of really incredibly high quality designers, right? So I had to go and check this out because I thought there's no way. Kmart doesn't have that, right? Kmart's a mass merchant, right? And most people think mass merchants do what mass merchants do. They go to Hong Kong and they say, I'll take 30 billion of those and I'm not paying you more than 3 cents a piece for them, right? That's what people think. I could not believe that we actually had all of these designers sitting in a design studio in New York City designing almost everything that you see in apparel on a Kmart floor. I was absolutely blown away by it. And they all made the switch to come to Kmart because they wanted to take their message to a broader marketplace. They wanted to take their perspective on style and quality and push it out to a broader marketplace. And a mass merchant was the best way for us to be able to do that.